2 raging book nerds, 14 years of friendship, and 1 burning question.
If Katniss Everdeen posted on Reddit, would she be the arsehole?
Welcome to Once Upon a Red Flag. This season, we're stepping into Panem, where every tribute, tyrant, and mentor gets their day in the Am I the Asshole courtroom.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Rachel.
And join us while we read between the red flags and break down the Hunger Games, one questionable decision at a time. Welcome back to Once Upon a Red Flag with, I guess your hosts, right? Katie and Rachel. Would you call ourselves hosts?
I feel like calling us hosts is a bit far. It implies that we know what we're doing. It implies that we are professional at this. But really, we just make it up as we go along, right?
Isn't that what every adult does in like every part of life? I've started to realise, right, a lot of adults I know don't know what they're doing. They're making it up as they go along. Kind of makes me feel better. Kind of makes me feel panicked.
Yeah, I get that. I get that entirely. Because part of me is 100% on board. I'm like, oh, so you don't know either.
Yeah.
Therefore, I am an adult. I can work this out. Part of me is like, what do you mean you don't know? What do you mean there's not a point in life where it all clicks and suddenly I become the Obi-Wan Kenobi of how to fix a boiler? Like,
I mean, I don't even know where to start, especially being a homeowner. There's so many things that like I don't know how to fix. We just have to rely on having those friends, like those stereotypical lesbians who like really know what they're doing, like around the house, and they can fix things because I'm absolutely useless. But hopefully not absolutely useless at running a podcast. So
hopefully not. I think I might be the useless one with that because I get really off topic really, really quickly.
But you think of all the things that everybody is thinking about, but too scared to ask. So I think that works. Exactly. Exactly.
I mean,
it works.
Maybe it's a perk, maybe it's a benefit, maybe it just shows what goes on in my brain and scares people. I don't know.
Well, I guess
I'm
we're
assuming the
find
comments
out.
will tell me.
Yeah, we're going to find out. So for episode 4, can't believe this is episode 4. We're going to go kind of easy on the topic of the icebreaker. We're going to talk about fake dating romance trope, yay or nay. And also, to add on to that, what's the best fake dating romance you read? That could be difficult.
I'm a yay for a fake dating romance. I am a sucker for this trope. I love it when like the sort of like, oh, I don't like you, but we're just going to do this because it benefits us both. And they're trying to struggle through that. Like, I love that little barrier. If we're doing specific, like sticking to fake dating romance, I love this one, which is Guide to Fake Dating a Demon.
I have never heard of that.
I think I found this in the works for like £3.
Love the works.
I found some cracking deals in the works. It was a time I was going through the cozy romance, like magical ones. And basically, I think she's trying to like bake bread or something. Let me double check. Like, what is she trying to summon? Basically, she's trying to summon an air sprite. She's a witch. She's a witch who can't really cast spells the same way everyone expects her to.
Okay.
And she's being forced by her family to practice. She's sort of like late 20s, early 30s kind. So it's like our generation rather than being 16-year-old all the time. Just a lot of what cozy romances are. It's like YA. And she tries to summon just an ingredient for her baking. And she instead summons a demon.
Oh, so hold on.
Tries to take her soul.
Hold on. Right. So she's trying to summon bread, and then
she's trying to summon like an ingredient
summons...
in like her baking or something, and then accidentally summons a demon instead.
I thought I misheard you for a second, but okay.
No, you didn't.
Accidentally...
You didn't. So, hence why I picked the book up because it seemed batshit.
Yeah.
And she refuses to make a bargain for her soul with this demon, and the demon's like, "Well, you summoned me. This is the only way you will get me to leave is if you make a bargain with me. I cannot leave otherwise." And she's like, well, I ain't making a bargain, so I guess you're my living boyfriend now. To explain to my family.
So the demon's going to be attractive, right? So she's probably kind of like, I actually don't want to send you back from where you came from. So how about no, and you just stay.
There is, I will give you a little spoiler, there is a little a little thing about. Okay, you know how touching Reese's wings feels in Avatar? That's his horns.
Okay. Anyone who's read
actually
Avatar,
so worth the read.
Yeah, everyone who's read Avatar will probably be laughing to themselves right now. But
that's if we're doing specifically fake dating. If we're doing what my personal like fake dating adjacent is, that's marriage of convenience.
Marriage. I have not actually read anything which is a marriage of convenience.
Convenience.
I guess I currently stay away from things of marriage topics. just for now.
Maybe let's bank that idea.
Yeah. But I'm intrigued. What is a book that you would pick which is a marriage of convenience?
I am a big Elsie Silver lover. So I think my favourite marriage of convenience has to be Wildcard. I think that's the one in her like newest series she's just finished. And basically to keep custody of her sister's child, our female main character marries the person that the sister has willed custody to.
Well, that could get complicated.
And then their relationship proves from there.
But I'm assuming it's not it ends up happy, right? It's not.
It ends up happy.
Yeah.
It's
Spoiler.
like a lovely little Elsie Silver romance. So they always have happy endings, thank God. But it is obviously, and then oftentimes when you have a marriage of convenience, there's always someone that you are faking it's real to. So her entire family, like they're trying to prove to her entire family that this is perfectly legitimate and that they are really in love, and they just have to get married immediately. And it's not for like legal reasons or the court or anything like that, so they should keep custody of this kid. They're trying to fake that it's real, and in faking that it's real, you get all the feeling.
Nice. I mean, yeah, personally, I do love a fake dating romance. I think it has to be done properly. I think I've probably read quite a few which haven't done properly, and that you can kind of tell, and they kind of annoy me a little bit. But the best one I've read, I was like going over this, and I think it is called, because I haven't got the book on my shelf because I've lent it to someone. That means it's good. Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake. It's the third book in a series. The series follows like a queer friend group in like a very small American town, and this one features our protagonist having to fake date with another girl from. Oh, it's queer, by the way. Just we should put that in. Another girl from her theatre group that she wants to join, and for some reason or another, you'll have to read to find out, they have to end up fake dating, and to start with they just they don't really get on, and obviously, as you know, every fake dating trope happens, it progresses, and spoiler, it is a happy ending. So
this is Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, and I am now adding it to my to reads list on my little TBR. And while I'm here, since I trust your opinion, I am going to literally add the two in the series. There you go. Thank you for that recommendation, because I love a fake dating trope, and I actually make it a point to read like LGBT and queer romances, because I think we're just skewed towards like straight white people all the time. Yeah. And as someone who is ace in a romantic relationship, and appreciates that part of a relationship, but is not actually attracted to people physically by looking at someone, trying to find other people's experiences that differ, even trying to find an ace romance. I haven't found one.
Okay, so you know what you're going to have to do? You have to go on the internet. You're going to have to book yourself a train to London. You're going to have to get off at King's Cross, and you're going to walk to Gaze the Word Bookshop, which is like just around the corner. There's a whole ace section. Ace section of books. Like a whole section just for ace. With flags and everything. It's great. You need to go there, because you will probably come back with like a suitcase worth of books. But that is like where to go, honestly.
So what you're saying is I need to take a whole separate suitcase to London just for this bookstore.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Okay, right. I can appreciate a good romance as it is, but part of me is just like, well, what? I know I don't understand the whole, oh my God, I got butterflies just by looking at his face for the first time. And I'm like, Really? I have no experience with that. I don't know how that feels. I can't relate.
Yeah, I remember when this first came out, because I think I was talking about it, and you're like, oh, you have actual physical reactions and feelings? Like,
It's
yeah.
like, I get romantic giddy. Like, someone does something like sweet personality-wise. I'm like, aww. Like, and I'll get butterflies seeing someone that I have a crush on, and I have a crush on them for, like, personality reasons. But at no point have I ever looked at someone and gone, oh, yeah. Like, that
I mean, I don't think I've ever said, oh, yeah. It's just appreciating someone's hotness.
I've seen people in front of me like get like physically giddy and like just by someone like walking, they've never met this person in the world and they just look at this person and then they experience this level of attraction immediately. That means that like you're tripping over your words and you can't like get your heart to slow down because like, and you're clammy and I'm like, okay, how do you walk into board meetings of your business? Like, what happens if you have a client who you find attractive? Do you just screw up a business deal?
I guess that is a problem. I'm kind of glad I don't get like giddy schoolgirl kind of thing, and it very rarely happens for me. Like I am somewhere on that spectrum, but yeah, I can imagine doing a corporate job and like feeling all the feelings.
Imagine you're going for like your dream job interview and you're attracted to your interviewer and you get all like giddy and I'm like,
awkward.
How do you guys cope with this?
Awkward.
Oh, God. Get it.
So moving on to the theme of this week, as you can probably tell from the icebreaker, it is fake dating. Yeah.
And going back to what you were saying about fake dating done right, the way I find fake dating done right is when both of them have verbally agreed to fake dates and are both on the same page.
Oh, I wonder if it will be the case in the Hunger Games.
Let's see.
Okay. So, am I the arsehole post for this week is, am I the arsehole for faking a romance to survive? So, I was thrown into a televised fight to the death. Jeez. There is 24 contestants and only one of us is allowed to live. It's meant to remind us about the horrors of a divided country at war with itself, but it's really become entertainment for the audience, who can send us gifts from outside the arena. These gifts are like water, food, and medicine, and can literally mean the difference between life and death. Okay. The other contestants from my district is someone I've known for years, but I've barely spoken to. On the final night before we entered the arena, he told the entire country on live television that he's in love with me. I don't know how true the statement is. Oh, does that not remind you of one of our last episodes?
I wonder what this is following on from.
I went ballistic. I yelled and screamed and lashed out. Our mentors pointed out that the crowd watching absolutely loved the revelation, and it's positioned us as star-crossed lovers. Only one of us can win, but this might give us both the edge we need to outlast the other contestants and get more people invested in sponsoring us. I still wasn't convinced. Maybe they were right and it would get us more positive attention, but maybe it could also be his way to get me on the back foot and lull me into a false sense of security around him. I just didn't know, so I kept my distance until the rules changed. When I was certain he wouldn't kill me, fair enough, I sought him out and played along with the star-crossed lovers idea. I began holding his hand, saying things when I knew the camera would be watching, kissing him. This worked. We got food, medicine, and extra supplies. It kept us both alive in the hardest days. We both survived the arena, and we are not both out of it. Oh no. But he seems disappointed now, and I feel like I've hurt him. I don't think all of what I did was entirely fake, but he's treating it like he doesn't know who I am. For the majority of the last few weeks, I've mostly believed this was some strategy he thought up, that he was playing along with a lie too, but now I don't know. I don't know what I feel either, but my actions kept us alive. Am I the arsehole for faking it, even though faking it helped us survive?
This is gonna be a juicy one.
Oh, it really is. It really is. I know we've both got so much to say about this situation.
Yeah.
It's probably going to get a little bit passionate.
This has been, so far, we have prepped 6 episodes and we are filming the 4th. And this is the longest script that I have put together for us so far. So,
Nice.
the
Okay.
longest like list of notes.
Have we got our
Should we
water?
just dive right
yeah.
in?
Are we ready?
Yes, lock in. I have coffee, I have snacks, I have water. Let's get into it.
Okay, so where do we start?
Kick us off, Katie.
Zooming out a little to the bigger picture of the series before we get into the nitty-gritty of the post, right? I feel like that's important here. So firstly, I think it really depends on how and why she is faking a romance to survive, right? Like that feels like really important context. So at the start, the trope of the fake romance is used a lot throughout books, but each one is so different and so unique. Like we found that from our icebreaker discussion, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going into book 2, you kind of get into like that marriage of convenience thing, even.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It sort of like spins off. It just sort of like grows on itself.
But especially in this case, and it very much plays into the real or not real aspect we have here too, which we know grows throughout the series. Katniss may have started this as a fake dating strategy in an essence, but we know that it wasn't that for Peeta. And I think that's where it gets extra complicated and extra sticky. That's a good choice of words. Because at least throughout most of the first 2 books, and especially the first, her and Peeta are never really on the same page about this. Because for them to be on the same page, they would have had to have a conversation about it first, right? Communication is key. That conversation doesn't really happen.
I think, and it's something that we'll get into a little bit more later in terms of like what Katniss is actually looking for. They're not on the same page about what their romantic life goals are to begin with.
Yeah.
So of course it was going to be messy. Of course it was going to be sticky, because I guess Peeta subscribes to the more traditional romantic notion of find a partner, settle down, and he's got his heart set on this girl. And then Katniss, for all her faults and all her trauma, is just like, never. No.
Never. Yeah.
Voluntarily celibate for the rest of my life. I'd don't blame her.
Yeah. But
based on what she's been through.
Talking about, having to have that conversation, having to be on the same page. I also want to flag that it's both their responsibilities to have this conversation.
100%.
It's not just Katniss's. And Peeta does try to, but he never really pushes it as much as you would need to push something with Katniss, as you just mentioned, to get her anywhere emotionally. Like, she's just very kind of emotionally closed off. And at least I think, anyway, that it's almost like Peeta is happy for even like the breadcrumb or the facade of dating and love with Katniss that he can have, that he will almost just happily ignore the fact that it might not be true, at least at the start. And okay, that works for Katniss because, as we know, even if it starts as a fake dating strategy, it doesn't always stay that way, especially as we get further in the books. Thank God. And she's a nightmare when it comes to acknowledging how she feels. But boy, can we relate. It is sometimes very hard to acknowledge how you feel. But yeah, a conversation, girl. Conversation needs to be had.
I think going back to like your comment on like the breadcrumbs thing from Peeta, I guess, and like even in the post she says like they both survived the arena, but they're not like out of it. Unfortunately, like their chips fell where they did.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a make the most of this situation, make the best of it now.
As much as you can. Yeah.
As much as possible. This is kind of the reality that we have been left with. This is sort of like we're nudging our way into book 2 a little bit here. But even at this point, when you've got what's the best way of phrasing it? Like, so you've set the ball rolling, right? You've announced on live TV that you are in love with this girl, and now you've both survived. Okay, regardless of what comes later in book 2 with Snow and whatever and rebellion and things, you have told the entirety of the country that you are madly in love with this girl, and you have now faked a romance together. There's no way you can break up at this point without causing massive uproar, and you are now both mentors. And regardless of whether you had the rebellion plot or the Snow plot or anything like that, you would have to go forward seeing each other in the house across the road in Victor's village, working together side by side, knowing full well what has transpired romantically between the two of you, even if the country thinks it's all a lie.
That's so sad because he's like, oh, well, Well, okay, this is a whole other conversation. Does Peeta realise that she's faking and all this sort of stuff, which we'll get into? But if he does, and he is kind of accepting that breadcrumb from Katniss, and is very aware that they'll have to go back, they'll have to live across from each other, they'll have to see each other for every time the Hunger Games is on because they're mentors. That's so sad. He's willing to take the facade of dating her because, I don't know, maybe he feels like he could never fall in love with somebody else. Like, that's his person. And Katniss is like, I still think he's trying to kill me. Like, that's really sad.
Sorry, that was a bit of a delayed reaction there because I was going, okay, cool. Like, how many times have you, like, though, had feelings for someone and then gone, you know what, even if they don't like me back, like, I'd rather be their friend than nothing. Like, I'd rather, like, I like them so much as a person, I'd rather be, like, in their orbit in some way.
Oh, yeah.
Even
like,
just as a friend, just to have the good times and the laughs, than never see them ever again. Which is, like, dude, get it. Dude, I get it. Like, sometimes you take what you can get. And sometimes that ends in complete disaster. And sometimes you end up with a lifelong friend because the feelings were just a crush and you get over it and all that kind of stuff. That's not been my experience. That would be a lovely experience, but that's not been my experience. But sometimes you take the breadcrumbs.
Sometimes. And in this case, I feel like Peeta has, and I guess is gonna wait out time and see if it pays off for him.
To see if it. But speaking of breadcrumbs, let's go back to the very, very beginning.
It's always about bread.
It's always down to the loaf of bread. Arguably, so was the demon summoning in the other book I mentioned earlier. That was down to bread.
There's a theme. Did you do that on purpose?
There's a theme for this episode. I really hope, actually, I'm remembering that book right now when she was baking bread. She was baking something. But Baker Boy over here, this is where it all comes down to, right? Because she's even conflicted over his mere presence. Like, you could have picked any other tribute and none of this would have gone down. But because it's Peeta and she feels like she owes him something because of the loaf of bread, she's literally like there at the reaping going, well, the odds aren't in my favour. No, because you're being killed, love. But what you're talking about is the fact that she has to kill the boy who helped her survive.
I'm sorry, can we just go back to the odds aren't in my favour? Yeah, because you're going to die. Or statistically have a really bad chance at staying alive. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, but she's like, but the odds aren't in my favour. It's Peeta. And I'm like, the odds aren't in your favour to begin with.
That's not the issue, which makes the odds not in your favour.
But here she is fixating on our lovely little baker boy, because how is she meant to kill him? And then he goes and says that he loves her to national TV. And how is she meant to kill him now? Doubly. Right now, like, he is her biggest liability in that arena. Because what does she do with this contestant? And, like, part of me wonders, like, I assume, like, you can't morally from the districts kill your fellow tribute, right?
Well, that's the thing, though.
You can in, like some of the districts.
If say you're a district, whatever, she's 11, the male tribute from that district came up and tried to kill you, like, you would defend yourself, right?
Yeah. But
and
then,
if you killed them, then you killed them. But I feel like you would always be judged when you go home for that. You'd have to see that person's family all the time. That'd be horrible.
So she's not actually in any worse of a position than any other tribute who's going, I can't kill that guy. I can't.
That's
because
true.
unless you're a career district, in which case, and we'll get into this in a couple of episodes' time, because I have so many questions. I have so many questions on how all of this works.
Yeah.
But they're the only districts I can think of, 1, 2, and possibly 4, where you could return to your district having killed your fellow tribute from home and not face being shunned because you would have bested them. You'd have become the superior warrior and been out on top. Whereas every other district, you can't go home and you can't look into that family's eyes that you're the one who killed their partner.
Yeah.
That killed your partner in the games. But then also, they're going to judge you so hard for you being the one and not somebody else. Like, they recognise only one person can win. But can you imagine, like, Katniss kills Peeta and goes home and tries to go and sell meat and squirrel to the baker again?
Yeah,
That's never going to happen.
I do think that this is something I'm going to talk about a lot in the Haymitch episode, which is next, about how for Katniss and Peeta, I think that kind of element of having to think about killing each other does get a lot harder because of how they promote them leading up to the games and how they promote them as a team. And I don't want to get too much into that now, but if Katniss thought just generally killing Peeta was lowering her odds at the start, then girl, just hold on, it gets so much worse. That's all I'm gonna say.
But she's stressing about this idea of I can't kill him. Well, you couldn't in the first place. So why are you fixating on his potential death? But then Katniss's big problem is 100% that her brain overrides her heart 99% of the time within the first 5 seconds of a feeling. So if you go back to the beginning, before they're even in the arena, it's after they've been reaped, immediately after she recognizes that Peeta's been noticing her, they're talking about their skills with Haymitch and going well, what can you bring to the arena? What's our strategy in training? And they're arguing back and forth and she can hunt, he can lift bags of flour, he's a wrestler, he does this, he does that. And she's like, okay, so he's noticed me, clearly.
Yeah.
And then I've pulled the direct quote here. And apparently I have not been as oblivious to him as I imagined either. The flour, the wrestling, I have kept track of the boy with the bread. And I wanted to point out about the things that she has noticed has been the hunky stuff.
The hunky stuff? What is the hunky
stuff? It's been the wrestling. It's been the flour. It's been the traditional, this man can pick me up and throw me around kind of stuff. Nice. She's not talking about seeing him in the window of the bakery or watching him decorate cakes or anything that we know that he does. That she's completely oblivious that he decorates patisserie cake, which honestly would be my first thought. Be damn, I can eat well.
With his family running a bakery, be he can make me bread, he can make me croissants, he can make me all this baked goods. Yes, please bring them here.
She's can lift 50 kilo bags of flour. He can wrestle. And she's just picked up on all this. And we see later in the game, she's just dismissed it all as her being observant or some shit. She's 100% just oh, cool, that's Peeta. Look at him. I bet she can't tell us anything about any other boy in her class, can she?
I mean, even when it comes to Gale, she can't really there's obviously the practical stuff the snares and the hunting and looking after each other's family.
With him.
Yeah, and then she's oh, I know that a lot of the girls find him attractive at school and all this sort of stuff, but there's not really any oh, we can do all this manly, attractive things.
No.
You can tell she's never really looked at him that way. Obviously, that's a whole nother episode. I don't want to get into that now, but it is different things. Yeah, it's different things.
It's very, very
notice.
different. Yeah. And then she's justifying all of this. I've noticed him. I don't really know why I've noticed him, but I've noticed him. But it's fine.
It's because he's attractive. That's why. Wake up, Katniss.
He's just my fellow tribute. It's fine. He's still gonna die. We're still gonna go into the arena. I just can't be the one to kill him. And then she finds out he's being coached separately. And she's it's a betrayal. But then it can't be betrayal. Because for him to betray me, I would have had to trust him. And I'm keep going.
Do we
want the right lines with this thought?
Do you want to keep exploring this feeling, babe? Do you want to kind of... She desperately needs some sort of therapy, but I don't even think they even have that. So,
and then she does it again. She sees him with the careers. My headphones keep popping out. She sees him with the careers, and she's betrayal. He's with the careers. And I'm oh my god, Katniss in emotion. Do you want to actually feel it? But the difference is her eyes have been opened a little at this point, because someone has told her that they like her. And then the second that you hear that from someone, you do just start looking at them slightly differently.
Yeah, you can't
analyzing.
You can't look at them the same. Yeah.
You can't look at them the same. Regardless of whether you feel the same, you can't look at them the same way. There's always that little bit in the back of your mind that goes, oh, okay, that's why he does that. Even if you're not consciously doing it. Because that is the way our brains work. And so then her feelings start to get, I guess, more harder to write off and sort of logic her way out of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because her opinions on his actions have got to become intertwined with what he's said he feels for her and what her response is to that. Because regardless of whether she likes him back, there has to be a response to what Peeta has said. She has to do something. This is live and televised. She can't just go sit in a room, cover her ears with her hands and go, la, 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 I'm not listening.
But she could try. I don't
she
think
could
it will
try.
get very far.
But she has to actually act.
I think going back to that feeling of, oh, I feel betrayed. Why do I feel betrayed? You know, kind of thing. I think even for me, when Peeta teamed up with the careers, I was like, what the hell? Like, what? Like, it was such a messed up your mind kind of plot twist. And she literally says, so I think this is also a direct quote, the career tributes overly vicious, arrogant, better fed, but only because they're Capital's lapdogs. Universally, solidly hated by all but those from their own districts. I can imagine the things they're saying about Peeta back home now. And Peeta had the gall to talk to me about disgrace. Obviously, the noble boy on the rooftop was playing just one more game with me, but this will be his last. That's a bit ominous, isn't it? Sounds like a threat. I will eagerly watch the night skies for signs of his death if I don't kill him first myself. Oh, she angry. Okay, so she's gone from like, oh, how will I kill this boy, to then seeing him betray her, almost betray their district because he's tearing up. He's teaming up with the careers, and now she's like, actually, you know what? I can kill him right now. I don't care. Give me a knife. I've got it. Like, it's like all that worry from however long it was before is just gone. She's like, yeah, I'm bloodthirsty now. Like, that's made me angry. And it's a personal betrayal, not just a District 12 betrayal. She can justify him being tempted by the weapons, but not surviving like this. And it looks from his beating that he didn't just saunter into the cornucopia and walk out again scot-free, but this is rage like you don't often see from Katniss about Peeta. Obviously, she's been angry before, especially about confessing the love and all of that kind of thing. But this is like I said, switching from not wanting to kill him to killing him shows the kind of the switch has been flipped in rage. And her violence until he says he loves her, like, is with words. But I feel like something now has awakened within our girl on fire.
Don't they say there's a fine line between love and hate?
Yeah.
And there is this passion, I guess, that she's just like, and whether it's cute aggression or aggression is, I think right now it's aggression. But yeah, like she's fully willing. Like she gets really, really mad about, he shakes his head at her like, don't go running towards the cornucopia. And then she spends all this time cursing him for being like, and he did the same thing I was going to do, because she watches him run straight towards. But then like, how dare he cost me that minute? That she then ends up almost getting knifed. Because of it. But she gets the pack. She gets the bag. So she actually comes away with something. But she's so willing to blame Peeta for distracting her. Okay, well, you let him distract you. You were thinking about Peeta in your final moments before the arena started.
Yeah, it's very true. It's a two-way street. Like, she didn't have to look at him, but she did. Like, she was looking to try and find him. Like, she didn't need to do that.
But it's his fault that she feels like this now, because, like you say, like, something has awakened within her. And it's definitely not her threatening to kill him over District 12's horror of seeing him with the careers. Like, I think it's her horror at seeing him, who's supposed to be on her side, with people who are actively hunting to kill her after he's
personal.
planted.
Yeah,
it's that personal idea again of so now he does want to kill me. I've thought he's been trying to like lull me into a false sense of security this entire time. And I guess the anger's more at herself, even partly believing it, even partly going, okay, maybe. Because otherwise she wouldn't have hesitated when he shook his head if she wasn't like, okay, maybe we are in this together. And obviously he said he's linked them together. And he can't kill her in the eyes of the Capitol because star-crossed lovers. But now he's walking around with the people who are literally out to get her. They are hunting for her.
Yeah, so it feels more personal because she's like, well, you've told everybody that you love me, and now you can't kill me, but you can work with the people who do want to.
Yeah. So then it's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
hang on a minute. So you've I believed you were trying to lull me into a false sense of security to kill me. And then I've let you convince me that that's not the case. And now here is evidence that you have duped me.
Yeah, you see,
And so
you've made me a fool. You've taken me out for a fool, and now you're showing everybody in Panem that I'm a fool. That
and
makes you
even
angry.
that, like, and that tiny seed of doubt that he planted in her with that confession of, okay, maybe I am safe with him, to then do this. That's the thing that's disastrous to her. That's the thing that's triggered this reaction, because you can think of it in like, she'll try and justify it any way she can, that it's not personal, that it's nothing to do with her, that she doesn't want a romantic relationship anyway, and so therefore it doesn't actually matter what his opinion is of her and all this kind of stuff. But the first night, just before all this happens, she sees him with the careers. She's climbed up into that tree, hasn't she? And she's, on her first night, she's strapped herself in, she's locked in for the night, and then the girl lights the campfire because she's freezing.
Yeah, oh my God, what a horrible way to, essentially for Katniss. Oh, she sees death at the cornucopia, but this is the first death outside of that initial bloodbath, which I think is a big thing.
But before this, she's the one literally sort of like seething in her mind, and she has plenty of time. She stays in the tree for hours, seething about this girl who has broadcast their location by lighting a campfire, just trying to keep herself alive and warm. And she's literally like going to town on this girl in her own mind, like contemplating this girl's death at like her own hands, going, I could easily climb down and kill her now, just for but at this point it's about protecting herself and her hiding spot. And she sits there and seethes. She sits there and seethes for a while, but she doesn't do anything. But when Peeta does, in a game that is designed for only one victor, and eventually someone's going to have to kill off everybody else.
Yeah.
She wants Peeta dead for revenge. Like, that cuts deep. That's not just about her survival at this point. This is 100% emotional. But, quick side note here. You see the careers. The careers kill the girl with the campfire, and that's when she sees Peeta with them, right? And they're like underneath her tree, and she's praying they don't look up. And they don't look up, and they move on. But you witness Peeta go back to the campfire because the cannon hasn't fired. They don't know, like, they've killed this girl. The careers have killed this girl. And then Peeta volunteers to go back because they haven't heard the cannon fire. Now, I can't quite decide what I think about this. Do I? I don't ever believe that Peeta killed this girl in cold blood. Nah, not our Peeta. Not our little baker boy. But when he goes back, does he go back to finish her off in like a kind and humane way? Do we think she's suffering and he's helping her with the suffering the same way Katniss does with Cato? Or do we think it's pure coincidence that when he comes back from the campfire, the cannon fires?
I don't think he would offer to go back if we didn't know for sure that cannon was going to go off. Because why would you offer to go back and then come back to the careers and then still a cannon doesn't go off? Like, surely that would cause problems for this newfound, quote unquote, like, alliance, you could loosely call it, with the careers. And that just cause more problems. If he's offering to go back, he'd have to know he would have to finish her off, but at least him would be more humane than the careers going back because they would try and have fun with it.
Because I feel like he'd go put her out of misery. I feel like if the careers are going, well, she's not dead yet. Well, she's clearly suffering. And I don't think Peeta would like that. But at the same time, he's horrified that he kills Foxface. Even accidentally. He is horrified. And they do call it like his first kill of the games. So, I mean, like, that was an accidental one. Does he go back on purpose to, like, just help this poor girl out? Or is it a case of he goes back, it's pure coincidence, he sees that she's at end of life, and then just hangs around a little bit, just tries to make them think that he's on board with them. I don't know why, but it matters to me so much.
I think I'd be interested to know what everybody else thinks, to be honest, because for me it is a case of he goes back, but because she's so, like, she is going to die, but it's going to be such a long time stretching it out, he puts her out of her misery. Whereas with Fuckface, that was a complete accident. Like, she wouldn't have died otherwise, if that makes sense. I think that's why that one is so upsetting.
I guess it depends on like what kind of injuries were inflicted to this poor girl. Like, was she left to like bleed out, and he goes back and like helps the process along? Because the camp, I don't know how far the campfire is from where she's at, but the cannon fires literally like as he returns. Like, it's not like it fires and then he comes back, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong there. But I think it's like pretty much like he arrives and then the cannon goes off. So part of me is sort of going, because I don't know why it matters so much to me, but part of how far Peeta goes to keep in with the careers to save Katniss, that question does kind of matter to me. And I think this is part of that, part of the piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. I don't know.
But it'd be interesting to... Yeah, I've literally sat here racking my brains going, okay. Like, do we ever find out exactly what happens with this girl? No, we don't. But it would be interesting to know. And I think that one pivotal decision there hinges a lot on what Katniss thinks of Peeta. Because she's witnessing this in her tree. She witnesses him go back to the girl the careers just killed to finish, and he goes to finish her off.
Yeah.
That's the whole like motivation for going. Whether he does that or not, she assumes that he does. She thinks the worst of him.
Well, I mean, especially now, and we know, kind of getting back on track to that betrayal, and you have kind of already mentioned it, but we kind of can see that Katniss doesn't have much faith in Peeta anymore. Like, she blames Peeta for distracting her, so she can't make a dash with the bow and arrows, even though she was looking at him, shaking his head, not the other way around. Blaming him for the reason why she has to risk the orange backpack, basically blaming him for the risks that she takes. So you can tell she's angry. Like, you have to be very angry at someone for just to blame them for like everything that you do.
Can I jump in here though and say this is such a married person thing? Just to be like, what do you mean? I didn't buy the pasta. You said we had pasta, so I didn't buy the pasta. Like, for mistakes that you make because someone said something to you, like such a married couple thing to do.
Well, this is the thing.
It's such a relationship thing.
Like going off of that, this isn't necessarily the anger of someone who doesn't really care about their fellow tribute or about someone else.
100%,
right?
No.
You wouldn't just go up to someone that you like honestly really hate and be like, oh, I blame you for all this that happened. Usually I feel like if you're doing that, you still have some sort of feelings. You're kind of tied to that person in your world. And even though he is from her district, and even if she doesn't want to be the one to kill him, she knows the second that what the hell would you call it? Big bang goes off.
the little starter pistol.
The cannon or whatever it is. She knows only one person can survive, and all they can do is look out for themselves. So for someone who engages her brain so often that her feelings get explained away as nonsense, as you said, within seconds, this is a lot of betrayal that she's feeling. And if Peeta was nothing more to her than her fellow tribute, would she be this angry? And yeah, he started the whole star-crossed lovers thing and drew her into this narrative, but there's nothing they can do with that narrative yet. At least not until later.
They have to, at this point, he's starting out, but they have to go their separate ways. So literally, like, there is nothing that they can do together unless they want to, like, create an alliance, hunt everyone down, then one of them kills the other in, like, a Romeo-Juliet thing. Like, there is no way they can play the romance up. So no one at this point is faking anything because they cannot. There's not an opportunity to. So this betrayal is all 100% legitimate. This trust that she has built with him to feel the betrayal. She's not even forced into the same room. Well, they're just in the same arena, but like they're not forced into the same vicinity as each other.
Inside the arena, yeah.
And he occupies a lot of her thoughts inside that arena.
Yeah, I mean,
even when he's like gone, she's thinking about him. Every time the cannon goes off, she wonders if Peeta is dead. Like, I think it's like when they're in the she's in the tree the first night and it plays the thing, and she's like, "Oh, I was alive," and she's like breathes a little bit of a sigh of relief, because like whenever she gets overwhelmed by the thought that he might be dead, like if he's been killed in that blood bath.
Yeah.
Tongue twister. If he's been killed in the bloodbath at the cornucopia, she started like planning his whole freaking funeral. She's like
dramatic.
envisioning every single thing that would happen to his body, from the bloodbath, taken away, being dressed, being fixed, being shipped back to District 12, the funeral.
Like you don't go into that with someone you hate. Like I haven't had, I mean, there's not really many people I hate, to be completely honest, but there are some people I'm not huge fans of, and I can't imagine I've thought about their funerals. Granted, I'm not in an arena and like we're all gonna die, and
you're not facing imminent death.
Yeah, and you haven't just seen a big slaughter of tons of like teenagers at a cornucopia, thank God. But I feel like that's quite a stretch, is it not?
Yeah, it's a bit far, that.
A bit far.
Unless she is literally like planning to murder him in cold blood and like bury him somewhere. Like, you don't really think about anybody's death unless you love them or are planning it yourself. That seems to be the limitation there, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
And then she goes, like, she's practically got herself like standing by his casket mourning at his funeral, and she's not even convinced he's dead yet. She's just worrying about the worst case scenario. But ultimately, like, that would be her best case scenario, because then she's not got to kill him. So make your story match up, girl.
Yeah, there's lots of back and forth here, lots of contradictory things happening.
Do you just not want to be the one to kill him, or do you not want him dead at all? And if you don't want him dead at all, knowing full well that you are going into the arena, that only one of you can live, and you don't want him dead at all, that says so much. And then at one point she even says, and she tries to justify it, the girl justifies everything. She's like, I'm relieved Peeta's alive. I tell myself again that if I get killed, winning will benefit my mother and Prim the most. This is what I tell myself to explain the conflicting emotions that arise when I think of Peeta. So even though she's at a point, she's aware she's lying to herself.
Yeah, she's starting to acknowledge that there's this kind of fine line between real or not real, and what do I feel is real and what do I feel is not real, which is just a whole ongoing thing with Katniss and Gale. I do understand.
But once again, God forbid that she actually confronts her confusion and figures it out. Because once it goes dark in there, all she can really do is strap herself up into a tree, hope that no one finds her, eat some food and sleep. Like, during nightfall, she's not got a lot to do. Girl could sit there, have a little bit of quiet solitude, figure it out, at least then know how she feels. But at no point does she go to any lengths to figure out, like, everything Peeta has done is to keep her alive. Like, he's not trying to kill her. She only seeks Peeta out to ally with when they announce that two people can win if they're from the same district.
Yeah.
And it's only then that she goes, well, he can't kill me now. He can't kill me. We can't both win if he kills me. No, girl, he can't kill you to begin with, because of the star-crossed lovers thing. Unless he wants to turn around and basically, like, admit to everyone in the capital that he fooled them, doesn't actually love her.
Which would not go down well. Yeah.
Which would not go down well. It was all a ploy to kill her. And then how could he go back to District 12 after that? Like, you're saying, oh, I can't kill him because he's from District 12. He can't kill you because he's from District 12. Especially after he's turned around and gone, yeah, I'm in love with her. He can't kill you, but God forbid she uses any of this logic.
This is the other thing, right? And like you can see this both ways. You can see that she goes to hunt him out after they change the rules because he doesn't have to kill her anymore, and hopefully won't. Or does she go and find Peeta because, well, she knows he's still alive, barely though. And does she think, oh, well, she goes home to District 12 and hasn't even tried to save a brother tribute who she could win with, who's in love with her? Would she be an arsehole if she didn't? That's a whole separate thing.
She would be the arsehole if she didn't at that point.
Exactly.
Because two heads is always better than one. But then she also does know at this point that he is almost fatally wounded. She has heard Cato like bragging about it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's because he saved her life with the tracker jacker thing that she still tries to pass off as a hallucination for a good long while. He warns Cato's on his way back, and that's then when he gets like that really deep wound that he almost dies of.
Yeah.
And yeah, undoubtedly now they can both win, but she could probably pass it off as he's fatally wounded. I will never find him in this massive arena. I can justify, like, you could have faked trying to find him, because what direction do you go in? Like,
I guess that's true. It's just Katniss is obviously so good at tracking. She has all that experience that her dad taught her, that Gale taught her. And I think she could have been like, oh, I'll just pretend. But is that really Katniss to be like, oh, I'll just pretend to track him and then like leave him on his own kind of thing?
Something that really is Katniss is the fact that when she realizes that she can win, like with him, when they can team up together, the thought makes her smile that he's never been out to get her in the first place, right? And her smile is an automatic reflex. She's happy that he's not been trying to kill her the entire time. But then she tilts her head up to face the cameras to catch her expression.
Yeah.
So she realizes pretty immediately, like, that she has to play into Star-Crossed Lovers thing. But her immediate reaction is to find him, legitimately, because he's never been out to kill her, and she owes him for the bread and all this stuff.
I think getting into this whole, am I the asshole for faking love and faking dating as a survival strategy? I think obviously before going into the game, she was very against it. She was very against being Peeta's like love interest. I'll use that very loosely. And everything, and not wanting to use that as a survival strategy, even though like Haymitch and Peeta obviously like whipped that up in training. But she kind of changes tune at that point, and I think seeing that initial bloodbath at the cornucopia, okay, that is traumatic. That is traumatic for anybody. That's especially traumatic for a 16-year-old. God, I don't even want to think how traumatic that was for the 12-year-olds. The boy dying in front of her and the blood being splattered over her and nearly getting off by Clove. Could that change her viewpoint on survival strategies? Could she have been against something like that before, but once she's overwhelmed by the reality of actually dying in the arena, her brain now views a tactic differently? Like when Katniss started this fake romance, you could tell she didn't think much further than exiting the games. I don't think she thought really much past just wanting to stay alive. But
I guess that's the thing, though. There's a difference in knowing something and seeing something and like, actually experiencing it. So like, I guess you've seen it on TV over the years. Like, you know what's coming to you, but then having like that big overwhelming emotion hit you of it actually being you in the arena, in the same way that like, you know something bad's going to happen, you know where something's going, but at the same time you have that small piece of hope. And then you're feeling like it's like going for like, I think what's the most like relatable thing here, it's like, I guess, knowing you have a sick family member, knowing that it's not going to end well, but hoping that small tiny piece of like that 0.01% chance, hoping that they are that. That's the same here, right? She has gone into this arena and she knows what's coming. She knows that she's 1 out of 24 and the chances are that she will die. But there's always a part of you that goes, but maybe I can win. Maybe it'll never happen. Maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe this isn't how it's going to be. And then she's like, oh no shit. This is dire straits, and not now you're not seeing people being killed in your district. Where she's actually got pretty nice peacekeepers. Like,
ironically,
her
really,
guys are really lax.
They are. They really are.
So there can't that be that many. Like, I think she says like in the book too that the stocks and stuff haven't actually, and the executioner's block hasn't been a thing for a while. Because
when she's talking to Rue, and obviously Rue's talking about District 11, and she's saying how, if you steal some of the grains, people will get whipped and like people will get hurt. She thinks to herself, oh, maybe there is a benefit from being from basically such a poor and forgotten about district, because all our peacekeepers just want to eat the meat because there's not much meat going around, and they obviously want meat to eat, and they can't be arsed, really. And it's obviously not until Captain Fire and the new head peacekeeper comes in and things start to get a little bit unhinged from his side, to be honest. But yeah, I don't think she's obviously seen death with the mine. She's seen death with starvation, but it's not like they have regular public executions or anything like that. Not anymore, anyway.
So, I want to point out, though, that the first romantic act is actually an impulse. Like, the same as when she does that little smile towards, like, the camera. Like, she smiles realising that Peeta can't kill her, and then she smiles, like, tips it up to the camera to see. The first romantic act itself is an impulse. It's not a calculated move for the camera. She leans forward to kiss him that first time because she just feels like it and wants to. And then afterwards, she justifies it being, like, long overdue because he's right, they're supposed to be madly in love. This is her first kiss being televised to the entire country. But she chose to do it because she wanted to that first time, because he was dying, because he has this fever, not because they were on camera. But then she does comment, this is her first kiss. She's never even thought about kissing a boy before. This is a highly pressurized environment for this to happen in. And it's been a matter of weeks, if that. Like, I think she works out something like they're in the arena for a total of about 2.5 weeks by the end.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, they have been in the arena max 2 weeks, probably less. And in real life, that would equate to, like, what, 1 or 2 dates?
Maybe.
They're teenagers.
Yeah.
This is their first sort of attempt at this. And now the choice is simple, like, fake undying love, or you actually die. You
actually
basically
die.
Like, you have forced someone to, like, speed run their entire relationship immediately. And then, like, the first kiss they actually have when they're actually, like, well enough to both experience it, because you have all these kisses that she gives him when he's, like, having the blood poisoning and almost dying, and then she gets the cut on her head and she's all woozy, having been to the feast to get him his medicine. And then they finally get to experience a kiss where she's not woozy and lightheaded.
Yeah, where they're not, like, on the brink of death.
Yeah, and he's not, like, feverish and foggy and stuff. Like, the first comment is, like, all she really feels is, like, how hot his lips are against hers. And then their next kiss, when they're both, like, actually, like, aware of everything and, like, fully in their own bodies, she feels a stirring inside her chest, warm and curious. This is the first kiss that makes me want another, is what she says. And so I think, like, no matter, like, how much she tries to justify this is all for the cameras, you don't get to fake a feeling. That's not possible. And she even says, like, they're snuggled down in the cave in the rain. Like, it's after she's healing and she's come back from the feast and he's, like, awake and the fever's gone and they've got this food from the capital and stuff. And she says, they're still cuddled up in the sleeping bag trying to keep warm. She goes, no one has held me like this in such a long time. Since my father died and I stopped trusting my mother, no one's arms have made me feel this safe.
Oh, God.
They were in a competition to the death.
Yeah.
And she feels safe, snuggled up with him in a cave.
Yeah.
And this is all before you hear the story of how Peeta liked her, realized he liked her the first time. So, like, when I remember, I read this for the first time so long ago now, but I remember the first time going, well, hang on a minute, like, do I trust Peeta right now? Because you're in Katniss's head.
Yeah.
And I was 16 as well, so you're reading it and you're going, I get it, girl. Like, at that time.
Yeah. I also want to say something in regards to, like, what you just said about, like, obviously we're in the book, as from her perspective, we're inside Katniss's head. She obviously has a need to kind of put on a show for the sponsors and for the audience and to put on the whole, like, fake dating trope for survival. She has a need to basically lie, essentially, to, well, lie loosely, to everyone else externally, but she has no reason to lie to us, necessarily.
Yeah.
So when she says she has those feelings inside her chest, she's warm and curious, she has no need to essentially censor that to us. So we're getting kind of a bit of the truth. She's
allowed to sort of, like, give some leeway, but I do think we're in her head and she feels the need to lie to herself a lot. So, like, you see her acknowledge these emotions. You see her brain just go, oh, that was nice. That was a nice feeling. And then her brain goes, why was that nice? Oh, it must be this scientific, logical reason as to why I feel this way.
My God. And we do obviously see, like, after she gives him a kiss and all that kind of things, we start to see them getting sponsor gifts, right? So
yeah, it does like actually work. But then in that sense, like, is it, I know we go on a lot about Katniss lying to herself and how much this causes problems, but in this particular case, when she's not quite sure how she feels, is part of it lying to herself, her own protection mechanism? I've got like a budding thought that hasn't quite formulated itself into something like entirely cohesive yet. But she thinks she knows what situation she is in, right? She thinks she knows that the Capitol wants them to fake a romance, or she is faking a romance because she doesn't want a relationship and she doesn't think of Peeta that way. If she's lied to herself enough to say, I don't think of him like that, I can see how with everything around her being confusing and fight to the death and fight or flight, and then I guess you've got to go back to her time in District 12 and all of the chaos that comes with that. Is she like, I can kind of give her a bit of respect for lying to herself and keeping what she thinks to be true as long as possible, because that would be one more thing to throw into the mix.
I mean, it's all very overwhelming as it is, isn't it? So yeah. I mean, going back to these sponsor gifts. Yeah, going back to these sponsor gifts, obviously they get broth for Peeta on the first night, and then the feast in the rain when they can't get food. They basically get room service to their little like love nest after she saved his life. And I guess, does this save their lives? Yes, but in smaller ways. Like the game makers invite them to the cornucopia feast where Katniss gets Peeta's super strong antibiotic medicine for the start of the blood poisoning. But the food definitely gives them a lifeline. And it is that like that unspoken kind of agreement between Katniss and Haymitch where one kiss equals one pot of soup. Which can, if you think about it too much, is a little bit weird because Haymitch is very old. But yeah.
we try not to think of it in that way because, needs must. I think this is kind of a sticking point to me as well, because the biggest action of their joint survival in the arena does come from Katniss's own initiative. So Katniss
100%.
risks her life for Peeta's medicine. She's the one who goes to the feast. The feast is organised by the game makers. Now, whether the game makers would have put them in this position to begin with, given them the time for the feast without the lovers thing, he wouldn't have been able to get it himself at all. That is still Katniss in the situation as opposed to their love connection with the sponsors.
Yeah.
Peeta gives her the perfect out at this point. Peeta turns around to her and makes her promise that she won't go to the feast, makes her promise to stay with him instead. And so if she really didn't want him to live, I think by now we've established that she does. But even if she's still doing plausible deniability, I don't care if he lives or dies, she has the perfect out at this point. He has told her not to go. And in the audience's eyes, in District 12's eyes, that would absolve her of guilt, right? Because if she leaves him and he dies, while she's gone, she is screwed. But she has gone to try and get him his medicine. Whereas you could have stayed with him as his last dying wish. And if she wanted to go it alone and didn't want to be because at this point he is a hindrance. She can't move. She can't be in a tree. She isn't doing what she would usually do.
Yeah, the complete opposite.
He's hampering her, but yet she's willing to risk it to keep him hampering her because, she's not a healer, but she has to know that purely by how bad he is right now, he isn't going to be miraculously cured. He's still gonna be mobile and he's gonna be alive, but he's still gonna be a hindrance to her killing Cato and everyone else in the games.
Yeah, because he now, like, let's just be honest, Peeta can't really defend himself as well as Katniss can. I think she then, you would realise that, I'm going to have to protect him as well on top of myself.
Yeah. And so he is another person for her to look after, which she does actually, despise the burden of. She hates the fact that her mother put her in that position. She loves Prim to bits, but she hates the fact that she has been put in this position. And she's willing to do this again in a higher stakes environment where death is even more likely for Peeta. And even then, like, they get to the end and they're arguing over who will die for the other. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd like a moment to point out the fact that she raises a fucking bow at him.
Yeah.
Because even
she
she's,
does.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that proves again, though, that even she still has doubts. Because they've revoked the both of you can live rule. And even she says she knows full well it would be better to die in the arena than to go home and face District 12 without him.
Yeah.
But they argue over who will die for the other. And then when they both survive through her quick wit and intelligence, she's the grieving wife in the waiting room while her husband goes into emergency surgery because he's at the point of death because of Kato.
Yeah.
And the gashes and the mutts and stuff. And her first question to anyone who will listen to her is, did Peeta make it? She's screaming that he is being ripped away from her when they get into the hovercraft. That connection that they have forged, knowing that one won't kill the other, that connection it's unshakable to her. Even if she can't figure it out why herself and she's not questioned it enough.
So I guess it is this thing, it's a fundamental question, I guess, for whether she is an arsehole or not, is would they have survived without the fake dating? Either of them, both of them, neither of them. Like, do you think Katniss would have won on her own? Do you think Peeta would have won on his own? Or do you think without the fake dating, Kato might have made it, even he was going pretty batty by the end of it, wasn't he? But that's a whole different episode.
Yeah, Kato's not entirely in his right mind there to be making decisions like this. This is the thing. So, like, if we go chronologically with this, right, without having had the star-crossed lovers thing, do you genuinely think the game makers would have ever put that rule in? If you're both from the same district, two people can win. That would never have been a thing.
Yeah, that never would have been a thing. No, like, that's never been a thing before. I still do kind of believe the film's adaptation of it, where Haymitch kind of convinces, obviously the head game makers put that into the case, probably was the case, because I don't see why they would have thought of that on their own.
No. And I think we'll go into this a little bit more with this decision, because I have a lot of thoughts around Haymitch's manipulations of things. But that will be another episode. So that if you go by the strategy up until that change initiated, because until that change was made, it flowed like every other Hunger Games. Like, even we've said that at the point in time that Katniss is cursing Peeta for him teaming up with the careers, they are playing the games like any other games because they can't fake this relationship. So Peeta's dying in a ditch and Katniss is on her own. And at this point, Rue's gone and there's still about, 3 careers left?
Something like that,
There's still at least Glimmer, Kato,
Clove?
Clove?
Oh, no.
Clove.
No, Glimmer's not still alive. Glimmer's dead, right?
Oh, Glimmer's dead. I'm thinking of Clove.
Yeah, she had the horrible, tragic death. So it was Clove, Kato. Actually, is there only 2?
Foxface and Thresh is still alive.
Oh,
she killed the District 1 boy when I think it's District 1 boy when he got Rue.
Yeah.
So there's still 2 careers and Thresh, at least, who are bigger than her and can overpower her. And then you also have to think about how clever Foxface is.
Yeah.
And she's been sort of like, she hides, she's sneaky, she's barely seen by anyone until they want her to see them. And I think that's Katniss up against 3-4 people who probably could outwit her.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important, like, dynamic there, because Katniss is good with a bow. Don't get me wrong, but is Katniss good enough with a bow to take on 4? Could she be quick enough to take on Thresh coming towards her? Peeta would be dead in the ditch. That would have happened. Would Katniss have survived?
I don't think Peeta would have. Let's be honest. I think everybody kind of knew that from the start. I think Katniss could have if if the odds were in her favor and she was in, you know, a high tree, away from where those people could physically get their hands on her, because I think in like hand-to-hand combat she would have been screwed. But I do think together, obviously they get the food, they get the parcels, they get the medicine, they have someone to bounce ideas off of. Like, I think Katniss might have done. She might have done.
She might
I
have.
don't.
I think it would have been sheer dumb luck, though. That's my
Yeah.
because if you think about it, like you were saying, hand-to-hand combat, she wouldn't be very good. If she can set the situation and circumstances up in her favor, fantastic. But we all know the game makers like to try and push people into each other. And therefore, say we go back to like the fireball situation and she is literally thrust into the path of the careers.
Yeah.
She's thrust into Thresh's path. Nah, like that would have been hand-to-hand combat. She's not far enough away, really, to notch an arrow and take aim. And then there was something else that niggled me as well. And it was, so say they started the fake dating thing, like the star-crossed lovers situation is already here.
Yeah.
And say they did get the sort of direction that they could win together. If Katniss and Peeta had met up, but they didn't fake date, they were just together as allies, which I might sort of circle back around to later anyway, because I sort of wonder whether was it really necessary to fake date to this extent?
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe not necessarily during the games. I think they probably could have found their own way to get the sponsors and all that kind of thing. But I think at the end is really where that fake dating strategy pays off. Because obviously once they change the rules and they say, oh, only one of you can win now, and Katniss does, you know, kind of plays the Capitol for a fall with the berries, I mean, that wouldn't have really made much sense to the Capitol viewers. I think the only reason why they both live, they come out of that, and then they don't both die some very horrible, tragic, convenient death somehow by the Capitol's hands afterwards, is because they are now loved by the Capitol citizens. They are now the lovers. They all these people want to see this relationship pan out. They want to see them get married. They want to see them have kids. That's the only reason I feel like they survive past the games. I think like they might have like won somehow, but I don't think they would have lived much past that if it hadn't been for the fake dating.
Because Katniss had already acquired the burn medicine. She'd already bumped into Rue to figure out how to get rid of Peeta's tracker stings and her own. And the feast provides the medicine that keeps Peeta alive. So even if they weren't like fake dating, the sponsors gave them food, right? Now, Katniss has been in bigger dire straits without food, without water. I think she could have got them out of it. But like you say, it is that because they fake dated, they now have a reason to why they would have deprived the Capitol of their winner and why they would have rebelled in that way and shown the Capitol up. If they hadn't done that, they wouldn't have had that like plausible deniability excuse to just like whip out and use. I think that's the main benefit they've got, is that they've set up this excuse by, I guess, sheer dumb luck of how the cards fell. But I also don't think that the fake dating itself was entirely necessary, and not to that extent, because as I've already mentioned, this is 1 to 2 weeks. It's a highly pressurized environment, but she's acting like she has to be madly in love with this guy, as if his confession has unleashed something within her. And it turns out she's been in love with him all along. And that is, I think, part of why it's so heart-wrenching for Peeta.
Yeah.
But then she's still thinking that it might not be real.
So I think we can agree that the romance did provide some benefit to both of them.
100%.
Like it obviously it benefits Katniss, but it also benefits Katniss's family, District 12, Peeta, and even Peeta's family. Like, it's not completely selfish of Katniss, and other people get things from this, you know, this ruse too. But my question, it really is, do we think Katniss actually truly thinks Peeta realizes she doesn't like him like that? Or do we think Katniss is oblivious? As that changes things as well. Like, if she thinks he is aware that it's fake dating, she might think he's consented to it, like he's consented to that happening. If she thinks he doesn't realize and she is trying to convince him that she loves him to keep a ruse going, then that's very different.
Yeah, this is like something that I pulled out as well, because you see Katniss like flip-flop backwards and forwards between unleashing her own kind of emotions and then reining them back in and going, why has Peeta done that thing? Oh, okay, yeah, for the ruse, for the thing that we're both faking. Yeah, that's what it is. But even she's not convinced that his feelings are real. She's been marketed it by Haymitch as a ruse, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's... That is basically what she's been told, and she hasn't questioned that at all. But I'm not entirely convinced she genuinely believes it, but I think she's lying to herself that he's faking it. But the more I circle around this, the messier it gets, because I think it's a circular logic in her own mind. She's not sure he's faking it, but it might be real. But then she's faking it, but it might be real in her mind. But therefore, what if he's faking it, but she's really feeling it? And I think this is really difficult for a 16-year-old. I'm 20. I can't get my head around it. I'm 28. Like, how do you, in that situation, figure out what's the truth? And at one point, like, she even goes, oh, right, the whole romance thing. She's just, like, having a good time
oh my God,
with Peeta.
yeah.
And she's like, oh, yeah, romance. She forgets. Girl actually forgets. Love is so far off her radar that she forgets they're faking romance. And then you see her go out to, like, actively fake it, and she actually tells you when she's faking it versus when it's real. So she reaches out to touch his cheek, and he catches her hand before he presses it against his lips. And she says, I remember my father doing this very thing to my mother, and I wonder where Peeta picked it up. Surely not from his father and the witch. Or
God,
maybe
savage.
it's just instinct. Maybe it's just instinct, girl, because he actually likes you, and dude is not acting. But she just goes, oh yeah, romance, cool. He's faking it really well. Where did he get this from? Like he's an actor.
Oh my God, yeah.
Studying people's reactions to figure out how to fake love. But if she thinks he's acting here, how can she be the arsehole for faking it when she thinks she knows the score? Like, she thinks it's calculated on both their parts. Maybe not, but I think she's leaning like 60-40. Both of them are faking.
Yeah.
And then the other 40 is like the mess of feelings.
Yeah.
She's got good faith in Peeta that she knows what the score is. So I think she says later on, like, I raised my eyebrows. I think this is after she says something about the romance or something like that. And she goes, I raised my eyebrows, but I remember that he doesn't know about the message Haymitch sent us a couple of nights ago. This is what soup equals a kiss.
Yeah.
One kiss equals one pot of broth. But it's not the sort of thing I can blurt out either. To say my thoughts aloud would be tipping off the audience that the romance has been fabricated to play on their sympathies, and that would result in no food at all. Somehow, believably, I've got to get things back on track. Something simple to start with, and I reach out and take his hand. So, like, she's like, really? It's like, oh, I know how we get food.
Yeah.
And then he's like, how? And she's like, really? You're asking me that question? You know the answer, dude.
I mean,
but she can't say it because there's nowhere for them to hide to have the conversation.
I mean, and just after this, right, Peeta tells her the story of when he first knew he liked her. So I feel like surely, like, once, I'll read it out in a bit, I feel like when we get to this bit, surely she must start to realise that, oh, actually, I don't think we're on the same page here. I don't think we're in the same situation. Because she says, for a moment, I'm almost foolishly happy. And then confusion sweeps over me because we're supposed to be making up this stuff, playing at being in love, not actually being in love. But Peeta's story has a ring of truth to it, that part about my father and the birds. And I did sing the first day of school, although I don't remember the song. And that red plaid dress. There was one, a hand-me-down to Prim that got washed to rags after my father's death. It would explain another thing too. Why Peeta took a beating to give me the bread on that awful hollow day. So if those details are true, could it be true? Like, girls finally starting to maybe catch on. Like, she's foolishly happy is like the feeling you get when someone reciprocates your feelings. like when you know the love is not unrequited love. Is that the right word? Unrequited love?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that's
Cool.
the right word.
And her heart knows what her brain can't like seem to tell herself. Like deep down, she likes him and knows he likes her, and none of it might be a ruse, but her brain keeps getting way too involved. Like, girl, like she needs to switch her brain off for that hot second.
And one of the heartbreaking things about this is she's asked him about how he knew he first liked her to get things back on track for the camera. Like,
yeah, and then she's like, oh, that's like
Oh.
that. His answer's kind of too rehearsed. His answer's like too detailed. Like he thought of that real quick. Like, no, girl, you didn't think of that real quick. He's been thinking about that since he was like young.
But I think she's also thinking about it in the way of, okay, so we started out like an actual fake dating story, as we both started out on the same page. Even if his feelings were real the whole time, he could have agreed to fake date her regardless of his feelings. So she's under the impression that it's all fake. But then actually, part of another layer of it might be that he's always had a crush and that's why he proposed the fake dating.
Yeah.
And now she's feeling the feelings and realizing a little bit like, oh, okay, there's something going on here. And it is reciprocated. Oh my God, it's reciprocated. This is, oh, so he felt like that all the time. Even in her mind, it's always started out as being mutually fake.
Yeah.
At no point has she gone, I am going to take this guy's feelings and I'm going to fake it because it's going to help us be alive and sod how he feels.
So I want to discuss here, right? Is faking a romance bad when the other person isn't actually faking? So the other person who you're faking the romance with isn't actually faking and is actually sincere. And to talk about some aspects throughout where we see the fact that Peeta is fully serious, because obviously, especially after he talks about how he knows he likes her and the first time that he met her, we start to realize that he might not actually be faking. And on top of this, I want to comment lightly on the idea of Gale being drawn into essentially a love triangle, which he never really signed up for, and how in any context that's really not okay. And I get that they weren't dating. I get that they tell everyone that they're cousins. But even Peter's like, oh, he kind of assumes that like Katniss and Gale have kind of got something going on, even though that's not the case. And I have firsthand like this experience of how horrible it is to be drawn into something like that. And you know, it is a realistic thing. It does happen, and it's horrible. And it basically creates this one giant mess, essentially, doesn't it?
I guess it all comes down to intention here, though, because Katniss doesn't intend to screw with Peeta's feelings. Katniss intends to fake a romance originally, thinking that Peeta is also faking that romance. And then by the time that she realizes, okay, I'm being oblivious, but maybe it is a bit real, she's already got the ball rolling at this point. She's already like, it's too late to get off this train. She's on this train. But also at the same time, they're in, like I said, a highly pressurized environment where the chances are they're going to die. Is it not, I don't know, like, it compounds things, it makes things more confusing. And even if she's sort of thinking like, well, maybe I like him too. Maybe he does like me. Yeah, this is fake, but I've never had a first kiss. Chances are, after today, I'm not going to get a chance to do this again with someone sweet like Peeta, with someone nice. And that warm feeling stirs in her chest, and she's like, okay, I kind of get why this is a thing now.
Yeah.
But then Peeta's intention when he sets the whole thing off, does Peeta set off the fake dating, or does Peeta just say, I like this girl, I don't have time to tell her and be with her, I like her. And regardless of how Gale then feels or how he thinks Gale feels, that is his truth. Duke can say it. He's fully entitled.
Yeah, I guess his
tell
is more,
people he likes her.
Yeah, it's more like a confession, right? Like it's a confession and declaration of his love. He never puts any pressure, at least, you know, once it depends actually how you define him, telling everyone on national television that we've obviously spoken about that. But he doesn't like go up to her and be like, oh, you know, I've told everybody that I love you and now you need to not make me look like a fool and you need to like, you know what I mean? He doesn't go up and have that toxic man energy.
It's kind of Haymitch and Katniss who run with that fake thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, well, here's your opportunity now kind of thing. And she immediately thinks, oh, someone likes me, I must be with them. Is kind of like her response. But then, even then, like, so Peeta even says to Haymitch, like, oh, she's just worried, when Katniss has her like horrible reactions, like, he's just worried about her boyfriend. And Katniss is like, Gale's not my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then Peter's like, oh, okay. Like, and anyone says that to you, like, oh, that person, like, oh, I assumed you're with them. I'm not with them. You take that at face value. It's not like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. As far as Peter's concerned in this thing, as far as Katniss is concerned in this thing, Gale is not the third wheel.
Yeah.
Like, Katniss is oblivious. We have figured this out many moons ago. We figured out Katniss is oblivious. And it's not Peter's fault, really, for believing her at her word with that. Is it Gale's fault for having not told her how he feels before she goes into the arena?
I mean, Rachel, I'm very much on the viewpoint of that everything is Gale's fault. Everything is Gale's fault.
Blame everything on Gale.
This bloody book. And I think we're going to go into a whole episode on the love triangle and then on the Peeta versus Gale and all this sort of stuff. But I think Katniss is just so painfully oblivious. And I know that, you know, when we get into it, that Gale didn't really start having feelings for her until, like 6 months before the games or something. Peeta had feelings for her a lot longer. Peeta assumes that they're dating because, you know, they're a girl and a boy and they go off for like extended periods of time to be on their own. I don't know. I guess they're thinking something's happening.
It's a very obvious assumption, right?
Yeah, I think it's a fair
assumption to have.
It's a very fair assumption for two 16-year-olds. And he now's like, oh, they're not together. And Katniss is almost like, he's not my boyfriend. As in, like, why on earth would they think that we're dating? Why on earth would they think like Katniss? We're
just friends. He's like my cousin. Like, I don't.
And then that runs off on a whole thing.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit weirder, that one, doesn't it? But like I guess here, like, Katniss has never like set out for this to happen. None of this has been done with like terrible intent screwing over. And in Katniss's defense, like, she is emotionally fucked before she even gets raped.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, that's very true. There's
no other way of putting it.
Yeah.
There's no other way of putting it. I pulled a quote here again because I like pulling quotes. I like backing up my points. This is high school English for you. She says, never having been in love, this is going to be a real trick. She's talking about like fake dating Peeta. Yeah. Then she goes, I think of my parents, the way my father never failed to bring her gifts from the woods, the way my mother's face would light up at the sound of his boots at the door, the way she almost stopped living when he died. That is literally like the thing that she puts in there with love and romance and how a man and a woman who love each other relate to each other.
Yeah.
She literally relates. Person dies, life ends. This is the crux of it all, isn't it? This is where everything with Katniss comes back to. This is why she can't work through her confusion over Peeta within the arena, because we already know she's terrified of losing anyone that she loves.
Yeah.
And Peeta's death is pretty much fucking imminent. Like, they are in the arena. Yeah, her dad went off to the mines in a dangerous job, and he comes home from that job multiple times before the accident, which causes his death. But then they are literally right now about to go into the arena, or in the arena, where only one of them can live.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where the two of them might actually get to survive together, and then she starts faking it, and then there's hope. Then she can figure out her feelings for him, because she's still protecting herself up to this point, because before they announce that two people can win, she isn't going anywhere near him. She can't do that to herself, because if she does let any of that emotion in, and the chances are he's going to die, because don't forget, like, she knows when they go into the arena that she has damaged his hands because of her violent reaction. She has already given him the biggest disadvantage and weakness. He lifts things. He is strong. He can lift 50-kilo bags of flour, he can wrestle. Not with screwed up hands, he can't.
Yeah, like she makes a big deal of, oh, you can fling flour, oh, you can do this. Oh, let's screw up your hands before the night before the Hunger Games. Nice, Katniss.
So you've taken away his survival advantage, and it wasn't that much of an advantage compared to the careers who have been training for this their entire lives. His death is imminent. There is a very high chance he will not survive this.
Yeah.
And so why would she open herself up to that, knowing that having seen her mother lose all hope, that would then lose all hope for her, but then also for her family as well, as she's the breadwinner.
Do you think that's why she kind of lies to herself and blocks out the fact that it could be real and blocks out the fact that she might like him? It's just like, no, not going there. No, not going to explore that these feelings could be true.
Yeah, I think to her, she literally equates loss of love as being sink into such deep depression that she cannot function. And she knows that her family's livelihood depends on her. She knows that if she wins this, they'll never have to suffer again.
Yeah, well.
And even... Well, yeah. And even without...
Yeah.
We're in book 1. Let's not think about 2 and 3 just yet. Let's just let that comment stand on its own.
Okay.
If she gets home, everything will be fine and dandy. That's what she is thinking at this present moment in time. And so why would she risk her survival mentality, I guess, when it's not just her she has to think about? But then she does hesitate to kill Peeta after they, like, at the very, very end. She pulls a bow on him thinking that he's going to go for her. Like, that's about survival of herself. It's not about killing in cold blood then. And even then she realizes that, well, if Peeta goes home, this 12 wins, they'll have some benefit, even if she's gone. But it's not, even to herself, she struggles to admit any emotion that's not romantic, even just any familial connection. So I guess, like, she watched her dad die, and she's lost a loved one that obviously wasn't a romantic connection. And that must have been hard in and of itself, because then she also kind of shuns the love she has for Prim.
Yeah.
So they're talking about stories from home and things like that, things that can, like, just pass the time in the cave. And she's talking about how she got Prim's goat. And she claims that the happiness from the memory of the goat is because they got a goat, and the goat is a money maker, and it helps them feed themselves, and it gives them stability. Peeta's the one who points out that the reason she said this is a happy memory is because Prim is happy with the goat, and that she gets the lasting joy of watching her little sister with this goat. And Katniss is happy because she loves her sister, and she's made her sister happy. So much so that she loves her sister that she took her place in the reaping. But she's still like, it's just logical to be happy with this goat, because we can live now. We can sell the cheese and all this. So she denies social connection as well. We saw it with Madge. We saw it with the fact, maybe we are friends.
Maybe we are
because she
friends.
wants to come and say goodbye to me and give me this pin. We've sat next to each other every day since school, and we have lunch together, but maybe we are friends. Okay. It's not just Peeta that she pushes away. She pushes away everyone. It's not just one person. It's just not just one type of connection. It's all of them, because they're all a weakness to her and what she has to do for others.
I guess kind of going off of that kind of vibe, and kind of circling back to a bit of what we discussed earlier, do you think Katniss would have really thought about a fake romance or a fake dating strategy on her own? Because the fake romance ultimately comes from the game's importance on performance and getting sponsors to survive. We have to remember, as we discussed, that the catalyst for this really was Peeta's own announcement on Haymitch. I don't think this ever would have come to Katniss's mind as a strategy without that happening first. Like, we know from TV that sponsors will eat up a tragic romance. Like, it literally nearly ends in a Romeo and Juliet. Obviously, I don't think the capital has Shakespeare and that kind of thing in their education, but this is kind of like their modern day Panem, Romeo and Juliet kind of vibes. And I'm just intrigued, do you think Katniss ever would have thought about this on her own as a way to survive?
she's too practical to ever have thought about bringing emotion into strategy. So you see it when she's with Haymitch and they're discussing, like, what's her tactic? What is she going to say in her interview to try and get people to sponsor her and like her? How are you going to come across? Are you going to be aloof? Are you going to be this? Are you going to be that? And she's like, nah, I don't. What? She can't act in any way, shape, or form to begin with. So any strategy that comes to her that isn't through brute violence and survival and hunting, looking after herself to provide, that would never come into her mind, I don't think. But I also don't think Peeta ever put this across as fake dating.
Yeah.
I purely think Peeta just thought, this is the girl I like. This is my last chance to tell her. I have been asked a direct question live on TV. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say the truth. And then it's Haymitch's strategy mind that's planted this into her, and she feels backed into a corner. I don't think, even without the fake dating part of it, even if we're just talking about allying, the same way that she allies with Rue and the careers ally together and form their little career pack, I don't think she would have even thought about teaming up with Peeta. Say that they had been like most other tributes, so they get pushed together, they get like thrown into this little alliance where they hold hands on the chariot and they talk to each other during training and all this stuff. They're kind of being pushed together then, but say there had been like any other candidate pair who just kept to themselves because they knew that your last connection to your home district was going to be killed, or you were going to be killed, or both of you.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have even thought about any sort of alliance with anyone. Maybe Rue because Rue reminds her of Prim, but that's it. Because to Katniss, any other person, really, any other connection, not even relationship, even like an acquaintance or a connection, can be used against her, and she is not gonna let that happen.
Yeah, we've seen that, haven't we?
It's only because Katniss felt like she got forced to participate in this idea that the Capitol ran with, but Peeta set the whole thing into motion with that comment. Whether he intended to or not, he set it into motion. And my question really is, can he really judge her response to the position that he put her in? Because he is like heartbroken, right?
He is heartbroken. I think you had an interesting point about when Peeta forgives Katniss for essentially drugging him.
Yeah, so like he's not necessarily willing to like. So if you go to the end of it and he's like, it was all fake? Because Haymitch is the one who lets it slip at the end, and he's sort of just like, oh, okay, and he has like a harsh reaction to Yari's hurt and Yari's upset. He set this thing into motion. Whereas Katniss drugs him and is like, yeah, it's cool. That's a bit of an understatement, like, but
yeah,
she drugs him with sleeps. She takes away his choice in his own life. Like, he's dying and he goes, oh, basically, like, don't leave me. I want to be with you until the end. And she drugs him so she can leave to the arena, to the feast at the cornucopia in the arena, and risks her life to save his. And yeah, he lives. And then he forgives her for taking that choice away from him. Yeah, it works out in the end, but hasn't he taken away Katniss's choice, kind of? Not intentionally, sure. And Katniss did intentionally drug him. Though arguably, Haymitch drugged him because he's the one who sent the sleep syrup.
Yeah. I think...
And Haymitch technically got them fake dating.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's a whole lot of like very questionable like choices in these books. But I also think there's a lot of... there's a lot of instances of, oh, did this person actually... like consent to this happening? Did Katniss ever consent to be part of this star-crossed lovers? And did Peeta like ever consent to potentially have his heart broken? But obviously nobody ever consents to heartbroken, as we know. But it's all very questionable. It's a lot of people playing with other people and people using other people as pawns for their scheme, which we will get into in Haymitch's episode, and like how he uses his tributes and all this kind of thing. And I think the only reason that people aren't really angry at each other, it's because it lets them live. There's some very questionable choices being made, but the whole thing in general is just one giant questionable choice.
I have kind of like touched on this a little bit, and I kind of want to sort of, I guess, flesh the point out a little bit further. So like when Peeta's at the end, and I understand that he's hurt. I understand that he is believed wholeheartedly in whatever Katniss has been selling to the Capitol, but also Katniss is selling to him. But he doesn't let her speak. And once again, going back to this communication issue, where she tries to tell him that it wasn't all fake.
Yeah.
She doesn't quite know what's going on, but it wasn't all a ruse. It wasn't all manufactured for the cameras. And I want to go back to the fact that she says that they're meant to be madly in love multiple times over. At 16, you are meant to be madly in love. After 2 weeks,
apparently,
maybe 3.
I mean,
You've never spoken to this boy before.
Have you not been in some sort of relationship where you've been love bombed before, and after 2 weeks you're like, oh yeah, I am madly in love with this person, and then later it all goes tits up.
But arguably though, and this is kind of like, it's not that I don't believe, well, some people believe in love at first sight. I believe in hormones at first sight, personally.
Oh, that's very scientific of you.
It's very Katniss of me, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think love at first sight or moving quickly in a relationship after a first date is very different. Love at first sight, in terms of looking at someone across a crowded room and loving them, is not what we're talking about here. That would be attraction to get to know someone at the time.
Yeah.
To actually go on a date with someone and then go, oh, it was love at first sight. I was attracted to him and it turned out like we're a perfect match. That's a very different thing. I believe that's wholeheartedly a thing. Looking at someone going, that's the one, I'm going to marry him, that seems a bit far-fetched to me. But here we're not talking...
The Capitol audience don't care about that. The Capitol audience think that, that's more than likely.
They just want like a little love story. But we're not talking about Katniss and Peeta having gone on a first date in the mindset of, I like this person, they have asked me out, let's go spend some time together and see whether we get on okay. We're not in first date territory to then have it move quickly. We're in a territory where Katniss has never thought of a romantic relationship at all before this point.
Yeah.
Never wanted it. And now not only is she having to give up that notion very, very quickly, or having to feign giving up that idea very, very quickly, she's then forced into this whirlwind romance in the final weeks of her life. I don't think they needed to go madly in love. I think this wasn't necessary for them to survive. I think Katniss wanted the excuse to indulge in what she was feeling and could justify it differently. Because do you not think that if they'd had a budding romance, they're kissing, they're holding hands, they're acting like a full-blown couple after 2 weeks? Would a bittersweet budding relationship being cut short because of the fact that they're in the arena also not have worked with the sponsors? Would seeing young love blossom from the very first parts, from the very first hints, and it also would have been kinder to fake to Peeta.
I think one of the things that gets from the sponsors is they're like, oh, these teenagers have just realized that they could be in love, like this could be they could be each other's true love, if you want to use that term, and they're like, oh, we have to give them the chance. So we have to give them a chance, especially when they realize, oh, 2 people from the same district can win. It's like, oh, but that's so sad, they've just realized just now that they might be their true loves. We can't let them die. I know when they get out of the arena and they've made the Capitol look like fools, they've used the berries, they've tried to kind of play them, the first people ever in Hunger Games history to achieve this. Haymitch is very aware that the President Snow is going to feel, going to have his backup, going to feel very much on the defensive and will want to make an example out of them. So, it also never happens again. And the districts can't start to think that they can just overrule any of the rules that they put in place, with one victor being basically the one big main rule of the Hunger Games. I think Haymitch's decision to say, you need to be madly in love, you need to be helplessly in love, you need to convince everybody that you could not live without this boy. Like, you would rather die than go back and not be with this boy anymore. I think really does show, A, how much the capital citizens believe this sort of stuff, B, how much they want to see this sort of stuff, and therefore how that ruse is the only thing that's really going to keep them alive. And obviously we're not going into Sunrise on the Reaping just yet. We're not going into what happens to Haymitch's family and all this and all that. But you have to also remember, Haymitch is seeing this and he's thinking, oh my God, what will they do to these kids' families if they don't believe this?
I'm not saying that them being madly in love or like faking being madly in love wasn't ultimately the thing that kept them alive and keeps them alive after the end of this book, because obviously like we say, the Nightlock berry stunt would not have been easily explainable away to the capital in the same way it was because of that. But part of me also thinks, do they have to be madly in love? Could they just have been in love? And then at the very end she realized, like, it feels like it goes very, very far very, very quickly. And part of me then goes, well, this is the nature of reality TV. Things aren't always as they seem because of that.
Yeah.
And then part of me even thinks, okay, well, regardless, but this is where we're at. We've gone for madly in love as opposed to any other romantic relationship options. Yes, it has worked out in terms of they are both alive. But Peeta has wholeheartedly gone, yes, this girl who has never looked at me and spoken to me before is now madly in love with me.
I think you also have to remember these people are 16.
Yeah.
They don't have necessarily maybe some of the life experience that we have now, being 26 and 28 and having some rocky romantic history. They don't have any romantic history, like, at all. They are 16. I know when I was 16, I would mistake, certain feelings as feeling like, oh, I'm madly in love with this person. No, I wasn't. Like, I just wasn't. But to me, it probably felt like that. And maybe to Peeta, obviously, he feels like this. And I guess Katniss trying to convince everybody else that she is. And maybe, I don't know if they were madly in love when they were in the arena. I don't think they necessarily were. But I think they then have to play this idea that they are when she's like, I'd rather we both die. Because for Katniss, right, that was a FU at the Capitol.
That's a rebellious moment.
But then Haymitch has to rebrand that as like a Romeo and Juliet situation, not what Katniss intended it to be.
I think we're missing another layer here, though, and that's we're looking at this from Katniss and Peeta's perspective of, being madly in love at 16, but the majority of people who are watching them are adults.
Yeah.
The capital audience is adults. The mentors around them are adults. So if you and me are sat here questioning, okay, madly in love that quick? Really?
Yeah, but like...
No wonder Snow's like, convince people.
Well, you got to remember, right? The capital citizens, they believe it, right? The capital citizens are a bit delusional. They're a bit... brainwashed. They've been watching this stuff for years, right? They've been watching it like every year. That's just how they are now. But you have to remember that even when they come out, there is concern that quite a lot of people in the districts don't believe it's real. Like when they come out, I think the president mentions it. I think Haymitch mentions it. He kind of says, there is talk in the districts that quite a lot of people there don't actually believe that you guys are in love and that it was just kind of a plan. These are the people that have to survive every day, right? They might understand it's more a survival strategy, whereas the people in Capital don't see it like that.
I guess we're kind of inching back into the people in the capital.
Yeah, going back
more. I want to say the word like infantile in terms of like not really being adult enough to be aware of not through any fault of their own, but they are like out for a good time.
Yeah.
And nothing else. There's no level of, I guess, responsibility within the people who do fully believe and have elevated these people to some status. They are not questioning anything, whereas the districts have obviously questioned everything.
Because let's be honest, do the capital citizens really care if it's real or not? Like, they're in for the good TV.
I mean,
they're in for the good story. Like, that's good TV for them.
Yeah, I guess I do it when I read novels where some people will go, oh, well, is it actually really believable the character would say that? I'm like, can you not suspend your disbelief and just go with the flow? of what is being like given to you. It has to be like a really, really bad book for me to like not be able to like find some level of enjoyment out of it, even if it's like terribly written and the ideas are like quite predictable. If I can suspend my disbelief, I am locked in for a good time. And I guess that's what the Capital are doing. They don't need to question things that deeply. They don't need to
exactly. It's all surface level.
Go that far. So I guess I am looking at it like District. I am being that District citizen going, nah, I can see right through this, really, and go that way into it. I know, it's just something that I can't quite figure out where I land on.
Okay, so after our very long discussion, as we thought it would be, the ultimate question here is, am I the arsehole for faking love and getting into a fake dating strategy to stay alive? And I think through all these discussions we figured out it was either you either now lead into the love story or you die. And dying would undo everything they did in the arena, every life that they took. Like it would be for nothing if they didn't live. So it is very much like you either do this or you die.
You play the hand that's been dealt, right? This is the hand that you've got. And so at this point you have to do everything that you need to stay alive. Like, this is an obvious course of action, I guess. You take it. Would I do anything different? Probably not.
And I think it is bad, and it is a little bit on the arsehole side in the sense that it's never fully consensual for the both of them. They never fully communicate. They're never fully on the same page. But the ultimate goal is the same, right? Like, to live and to not die. And I think that's enough payout for the both of them, for it to sit well enough for them to not say anything to each other.
I think one of my big questions with this question, am I the asshole for faking the romance, is, well, could it ever have been consensual? Could it ever have been mutually fake? Because Katniss is of the opinion that they are both faking it for a long time, right? Is there ever a point where they could have gone, or each could have gone, this is fake, like, because there's cameras around them the whole time. So at no point once she was in the arena could they have clarified. If you go by the idea of them being watched everywhere in the Capitol, unless they were up on the roof where there's no cameras, once again, like, could they have clarified? Well, at this point, Katniss wasn't playing into it. Not until she started doing the fake dating and the romance stuff could she ever have gone, I'm not doing this legitimately, right? Like, there's nowhere that she could ever have said that without cluing in the audience. So even if they both had, like, spot-on communication skills, wasn't going to happen. It couldn't have happened.
I feel like that could have been possible, though, because it is a part where, her and Rue had met up for kind of the first time after all the track attackers and all that thing has happened. And she wants to ask Rue, essentially, if Peeta's still alive and who's left. And she thinks in the book, we both cover our mouths so the audience can't tell what we're saying. That's actually something that she says.
Arguably, though, that's the least risky thing that you could say. Like, say that they were picking up on you. Say that your tracker had, like, a microphone in it that she wasn't aware of. If you're asking as one of the star-crossed lovers if the guy you like is still alive, even if they heard that is entirely deniable. But if they overheard through any means possible this romance is fake, there would be hell to pay. So I guess even in that situation, you don't verbalize it. Like, that would be the riskiest thing, apart from fuck the Capitol. The riskiest thing you could actually say in the arena would have been, this romance is fake, Peeta.
So I guess that is an arsehole move, but we can also acknowledge the fact why she didn't do it. Yeah. I also think through this whole discussion that real and not real, even though it doesn't start to appear as a concept kind of until the later books when they get like even more messed up from going into the games twice, it starts to get its foundations here in the first book, right? It starts to get its foundation in the first Hunger Games. And when Katniss spends half the time thinking Peeta is trying to kill her, but he actually loves her. And even though, we get to be like kind of like, we see the honest Peeta, we see him teaming up with the Crids, supposedly tracked her. It's just all very suspicious, right? very, very suspicious.
Yeah, it is.
And if I was Katniss, I would be pissed. I would be angry. But saying that, we've all put up with things in our love lives. And I just think that very much lays the foundation for what's going to happen. And I guess the ultimate kind of question is survival an excuse for dishonesty? But also, actually, how dishonest was Katniss actually being? And that is obviously a lot what we've discussed.
I think the person she's being dishonest with herself is the most, though. Like, that was the wrong way around for words, right?
I get what you mean, though.
The most dishonest with is herself. There we go.
We all knew what you meant. We all knew what you meant. It's fine.
The words are in my mind, but they came out in the wrong order. So, is she the asshole for faking the romance? It's hard to, I can see so many sides with this. Having been in positions of people not being entirely honest with how they feel or giving you answers that you read into one way, but really they can twist what they say into another.
Yeah.
I can see how hurt and upset Peeta is. But from Katniss's mind, there's no future for them anyway. Even if they win, even if they both survive themselves, she has vowed to herself that she will never get married. She will never have kids. She'll never put herself in that position to be with someone. And she knows that's what Peeta would want. They wouldn't have a relationship without kids.
Yeah.
We've already discussed whether this is even possible in terms of contraceptives in the district. So they wouldn't be like a couple without kids. That isn't an option for them. So they were never going to be together anyway. And in Katniss's mind, what's the harm, I guess? If they're both going to die and there's no future, and yeah, she's got some budding feelings for him, but chances are they ain't going to get out of it. And if they do get out of it, they can't be together anyway. And even if she does die, okay, she's had some semblance of a relationship that was effectively child risk-free.
So I guess the answer is no, she's not an asshole for multiple reasons. For multiple reasons. However, it probably could have been handled a little bit better, but things happen.
I feel like the answer to all these questions is, like, every single time we've had an am I the asshole, it's usually, no, you're not the asshole. It's just a situation you're put in.
We'll get to some where it will be like, no, you are the asshole.
No, you
I know what's coming up. Yeah.
Finally, someone. We won't be able to blame it on Panem and the Capitol and snow. But I think the only way this could have been made better is if, and part of me, like, we're going to get into Haymitch shortly, but part of me just goes, you absolute tool, Haymitch, because he's the one who lets it drop to Peeta, isn't he? He's the one who, when they've literally walked away from the train platform, when they stop to refuel and there's no one around to hear them, they think there's no cameras around, and Katniss and Peeta can finally be alone without a camera. And at that point, whether she would have done or not, Katniss could have been like, hey dude, let's address the arena. It would have been so much better coming from Katniss than Haymitch going, you're doing great guys, just keep it up till we're back home. And he's like, what?
God.
And what do you mean? Keep what up? What's fake here? What are we pretending to do? And it would have been so much better coming from Katniss, but she never would have got the chance to because of Haymitch. So that's the only thing that would have made this situation better for them, I think. That's the only thing that could have fixed it.
So our kind of closing question for this episode is, like, taking into account the full conversation we've just had about all the complications that come with faking things you don't really feel. Rachel, would you fake a romance on national television if it gave you a better shot at survival?
Probably, yes. I'd like to think I would have been able to have the conversation with someone to be like, hey, this is fake. Cool. Right. We're in it together. But I guess if you don't have the opportunity, like here, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm out for myself.
Yep, that's completely fair.
I kind of want to live. Like, I really can't fault. I kind of can't fault her for that.
Yeah, it was like we just spent the last hour and a half, 2 hours being like, oh, it's really complicated. There's multiple layers. Like, I think she's might have not done this right. And I'm like, yeah, I would.
Like,
I would.
Like, we can dissect every single part of this book, but if it comes down to life or death, I choose life.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I'd like life, please.
I kind of, there's a limit to who I'd screw over, but I'd screw a lot of people over.
Showing your true
really
colours
would.
now.
I am nothing if not honest. But I think that's the thing is most times a life versus death situation and all, we're not talking about killing someone here so that you live. We're talking about, will you just hurt someone's feelings to live? Yeah, because I can probably clear it up with them afterwards if I'm alive.
If I'm alive, yeah. So I guess, this has been one hell of an episode. There's been a lot that we've discussed about. But if people have made it to the end, I'm so proud of you. Well done. Well done for listening to us ramble for what I imagine is going to be up to like close to 2 hours. And
I think there's probably 3 hours worth of footage here.
Yeah, and we really want to know your opinions on this, because this is complex, this is complicated. Do you think she's in the right? Do you think she's in the wrong? Do you think they should have had a conversation? Would you have done exactly the same? Please justify us for saying yes, because now I feel bad.
And tell us what you think. Like, what did Peeta do when he walked back to the campfire for the girl after the cruise? Like, what do we think he did there? Because that's still niggling in me. And do you think there was any way for them to survive in any fake dating relationship that wasn't madly in love? Because I'm still questioning this. I don't quite know how I feel with this. Could they have faked something softer? Was that ever a choice?
I am very much in the park that they needed to be madly in love. So we need to see who's on what side of this question. Okay. Well, next episode, I know we're deep diving into Haymitch. We're diving into kind of his responsibility with his tributes, and obviously his I don't know if you'd call it functional alcoholism, but we'll have that.
Yeah, there
are
sometimes he's not quite functional. He can be a functional alcoholic. I think he chooses not to be a lot of the times. But we'll really dig into that. We'll pull apart Haymitch, specifically Haymitch in book 1. We're gonna save a lot of the Sunwise on the reaping revelations for later. So make sure you guys stick around for that. And let's really pull apart what we think of Haymitch as Katniss sees him for the first time at 16.
Okay, I'm excited to get into it, and I look forward to seeing you guys and talking to you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening to our podcast, and don't forget to let us know your thoughts on all of our potential assholes.
No matter what platform you're listening to us on, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, upvote, and all of that stuff.
If you like what we do and want to find out more, all of our platforms are listed in the description or show notes. We're a 2-person team, so any support or feedback is always greatly received.
Tune in next time to Once Upon a Red Flag. But I think she's lying to herself that he's faking it. But the more I circle around this, the messier it gets, because I think it's a circular logic in her own mind. She's not sure he's faking it, but it might be real. But then she's faking it, but it might be real in her mind. But therefore, what if he's faking it, but she's really feeling it? And I think this is really difficult for a 16-year-old. I'm 20. I can't get my head around it. I'm 28. Like, how do you, in that situation, figure out what's the truth?